I'm not like other influencers. Because it's like dicily kind of illegal. Didn't leave my office job to continue to neglect my workers' rights. But you can't just demand that people stop working with the brands that they're working with like that. So the concept of patrons has been around for a very, very long time. Any great piece of art in history, somebody rich funded it, and their track history probably wasn't squeaky clean. But when it comes to YouTubers and sponsorships, it's a spectrum. It's a spectrum. I have been doing YouTube for 10 years, nearly 11 years, and I have only been a full-time YouTuber for the last year and a bit. So sponsorships are something that I have slowly started working with. But when it comes to who to pick to work with, I've come across a lot of like weird, interesting nuances to the decision that I'd like to share with you today. One, because you have to sit through these ads, so lifting the curtain might be interesting for you, and also thought it might be a little bit of fun. Now, am I having a I'm not like other influencers moment? No. At least I'm trying not to have one of those moments. I'm going to do the tier ranking first, but if you want to stay for the second half of the video, we're going to chat a little bit about how I feel about other influencers making these decisions and propose a few good ways to move forward. Now, onto the tier ranking. That's what you're here for. When a company emails me, my first thought is, maybe this time I'll be lucky. But most of the time I'm not, because I have to turn down like 95% of the sponsorship offers I get into my inbox because they're all complete tools. Liza Minnelli's unreleased B-side to Maybe This Time. When I get a brand into my inbox wanting to sponsor a video for this channel, for me to put in your eyeballs, I feel a lot of responsibility. I don't want to waste your time, I don't want to waste my time, and I didn't spend 10 years working towards giving up an office job to go back and work for the man. Do you know what I mean? And most people in my inbox, to be honest, are the man. So when I get an email, these are the 4 things that I do. I Google the brand name with the word controversy or scandal, and I see what comes up. I use my ethical consumer login, which is £30 a year, and you can go in and look at all of the data on different kinds of brands and consumer products and stuff. It's very, very good. I'll leave the link below. Not spawn, just love. If I know any other influencers, or even if I don't, but I reckon they might reply to me in DMs who have worked with them before, I'll DM them. Often, sometimes the brand can be really great, the product can be amazing, but the agency, they usually lease out the influencer work with an agency. The agencies can often be real dodgy Daves and very annoying. So I always ask for like any kind of peer reviews on how they were treated, because again, didn't leave my office job to continue to neglect my workers' rights. And then finally, I asked myself, do I like this product? Would I buy this product? Am I wasting people's time by asking them to take a look at it? I've picked 10 brands to tier rank today that I have said no to. For obvious reasons, I can't share how much money they offered me or what the email exchange was, but I can say these people approached me, they wanted to work with me, and these are my thought processes as to why I said no. Obviously, sometimes they just didn't have that much money, so that's why I said no. Because again, there's a workers' rights thing where if I, as a freelancer, accept a rate that I know isn't standard or fair, I'm lowering the rate for everybody else in my industry. But these are the ones that I said no to for other reasons other than money. Let's go. The tier ranking system is, it's not you, it's me. A sea of red flags, delicious but suspicious, take your name out of my mouth, and over my dead body. Let us begin. Function of beauty. For me, this was a no-brainer. I don't want to promote single-use plastic on my channel. Obviously, I'm not perfect. I do use single-use plastic in my life, but I think there's a difference between having an unfortunate part of your life that you haven't fixed completely yet in all aspects, and actively promoting the consumption and production of that going forward. Function of Beauty are not in my good books for that, but they also had a lot of like bad reviews online. A lot of people seem to have a lot of problems with them. There's a few people breaking down why this idea of customizable hair care is kind of a little bit of a con. And also I realised that shampoo is something that, like, if you want to buy bottled shampoo, it's probably quite available near you in your shop, so I'm asking people to get it posted to them from like miles or countries away. So for this one, Function of Beauty is take your name out of my mouth. Like, why did you even email me? I literally have like a whole playlist on my channel about the climate crisis, but nice try. I get a lot of like single-use plastic people coming to me and I'm like, why did you just Google me? Anyway, Audible. Now, I keep saying this and I want to catch as many people as possible, but I've reiterated before on my channel in videos, you can watch some of them up here. Audible are owned by Amazon, Amazon are bad. There are videos about it up here. People literally die while working for them. They've destroyed so many artistic industries and they owe us so much tax. So that's a no from me. Me and Jeff never getting into bed together. So that's a complete over my dead body. And I genuinely think some of these like agencies don't think that we know that they're owned by Amazon. Anyway, actually a good alternative to Audible I found recently was Zigzag. Again, not sponsored, I bought the books myself, but they have a great audio service if you want it. The books are like the same price, and also they do a thing where you can read the ebook while listening to the audiobook, and it's all like part of the same. It's really good. Look it up, let's go. Blinkist. Now, this is where things get more complicated and maybe a little bit more interesting for you to see behind the thing. So Blinkist is a text and audio explainers kind of app. So it takes the key ideas from non-fiction and gives it to you in under 15 minutes. This isn't something I'm completely against in theory. I want cool ideas to reach people, and if people don't have time to read whole books, like that's cool. But because I worked like predominantly with non-fiction in the publishing industry for like 9 years, and I really believe in the transformative power of books, and I see how much work goes into writing a whole book and why you don't get the concept by hearing a headline or a soundbite from the book. There's a reason somebody spends like 5 to 10 years researching a non-fiction book and then writing it. It's because nothing is that simple. And I've felt more and more in the last few years that slogans around nuanced and complicated concepts do more harm than good. And I just, while like if somebody used Blinkist, I wouldn't be like the devil. I'd be like, go for it. If it works for you, good. I don't know if I can honestly be an advocate for that kind of consumption of intellectual property. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm like, imagine being an author and spending years and years or like maybe decades researching this incredibly complex scientific or cultural phenomena, and somebody comes up to you and is like, you're that guy, and you can be like, yeah, I'm that guy, and I'm like, oh, did you read the book? And they're like, no, but I listened to a summary on Blinkist and it sounded okay. You know, like, it just breaks my heart a little bit, and maybe I'm being a snob. Maybe if you've used Blinkist, let me know if it's worked for you, but I said no to them just because I was like, all of my passion and belief and livelihood was made off the concept of it being important for people to read whole books. So I don't know if I can honestly take money from you to advocate for the opposite. Maybe I'm being a snob. Tell me in the comments below. If you've used Blinkist, let me know. So this is just, it's not you, it's me. I think that's what it goes in. It's not bad, but I just didn't feel good about promoting it to you because I think it kind of contradicts a lot of the things that I say on my channel. VPNs! Oh my god. So I've just put VPNs in general. I've been approached by most of the ones that you might have heard of, and I've said no, just kind of because I don't use VPNs, I don't really get them. And then most recently I've been saying no because somebody in the Gumption Club told me about this video that is right here, you should watch it, and it's all about the kind of suspicious way VPN companies tell you that they're encrypting your data. So when they say you have an encrypted tunnel and like they imply that like we're keeping your data safe from the evil people, every website that has that lock sign on your browser, that means that it's sending data through an encrypted tunnel. And the same if you're using an iPhone, it's been like that since 2016, and if you're using an Android, it's been like that since 2018. Like you already have what they call military grade encryption. Like we already have the technology for that. You're already getting it from your normal browsers. It's called AES, and the problem is that obviously like VPN companies don't want, for legal reasons, to advertise the fact that they're encouraging you to watch Netflix in another country because it's like dicily kind of illegal. So they want to emphasize the safety aspect of it. But after watching that video, I realized that were the companies to force me to say words and concepts that implied that you would be more safe online from using a VPN in general, they wouldn't let me complicate that issue, and they'd probably make me say it even if I didn't really feel like it was completely true. So that's why I say no to all VPN sponsorships. But again, it's a complicated issue, and I'd recommend that video up there. And for that reason, they are going in my delicious but suspicious category. Like, I would get a VPN if I felt like I did want to watch other kinds of Netflixes in other kinds of countries. But at the moment, I don't even have a Netflix account because I'm addicted to Broadway HD, which is a whole other story. But it's just not something I want to promote in the way that they want me to promote it. Nike. Okay. who own Converse, by the way. Did you know that? I only found that out yesterday. This is something that, while a lot of people know that Nike use sweatshops and like unfair labour, Ethical Consumer was really, really helpful in like me subsidising those claims and being like, is that still true? Yes, it's still very true. That's not something that they've really fixed. I'll leave the links below, but at least up till February 2020, there's loads of evidence to suggest that they were using workers working under conditions that strongly suggest forced labour. That's in China and to do with a range of people from marginalised backgrounds. And then there's also been loads of reports that they have shown no evidence, this is 2019, of paying even a living wage to any of their workers. So we do not like coercion. That's another word they used. I don't know the details of that, but I don't like that word, coercion, not even just that they're not being paid fairly. They also have Ethical Consumer's worst rating for its cotton sourcing policy, and they're also part of a lobbying group that lobby for, and I quote, free trade at the expense of the environment, animal welfare, human rights, and health protection. So it's a no from me. I've kind of always known that Nike are very, very suspicious, but like, even if it was not a selfless reason and I was just looking out for myself, like, it would be the end of my career to support that. Like, why would I even serve you a drink at a party? It's a over my dead body, Nike. Now, this is another really interesting one I wanted to put in here to start a conversation. BetterHelp. I see a lot of influencers promoting them, and I've been approached by them a few times and had a bit of a like, oh, it's kind of good, but also I feel weird about it. I think maybe also because a lot of the influencers that promote it, I don't know if you noticed, talk about how good therapy is, but they don't actually use BetterHelp. They have a, in inverted commas, real therapist that costs more money. If you don't know, BetterHelp is an app that means that you can access mental health support for cheap, and you can kind of like hire and fire your therapists on the app. It's all digital, and like in some ways that's obviously good. I want people to be able to access that, but there was also loads of, when you Google it, loads of articles about their terms of service. So you as the user have to take full responsibility for checking whether the people that you're paying to talk to are actual therapists and have any qualifications. Like, the app doesn't take any responsibility for that, which I think is wow. And also, according to this article, BetterHelp can record your conversations with your therapist and sell data it collects on you. I don't know, I also feel really complicated about, if it's a mental health thing, right, and they want me to promote it to you, and it's an affiliate link, and when you click on it I get money, like, effectively, the worse you're doing, the better I do. You know? And again, maybe this is just because of like my privilege of growing up in Britain, where I've always had a free access to healthcare. So while I'm glad that private mental health care exists, and I wouldn't be against getting it myself if I ever was in a position where I felt like I needed it, I kind of hate that it's a thing that we're celebrating having to pay for. Like, if I was going to talk about it, it would be dishonest for me and the way I feel, at least, to not mention the fact that paid healthcare to me is kind of like the food bank situation in the UK. Loads of politicians were criticised for celebrating food banks and being like, it's so great that the community are coming out and helping. Like, it's not good that we have to do that. It's not good that we have to support people in this way, and it's not good that there have to be app-based cheap options that, like, again, like, there's kind of some workers issues around, like, are the therapists being paid properly if it's that cheap? Like, what's going on? And if I was going to be sponsored by them, I'd also have to, like, add an addendum that's just like, and fuck the Tory MPs for selling off our NHS because this service should be bastarding free. And somehow, I don't know if that will get signed off. I guess also the last and maybe most important point for this one, and just relating to me personally, is that I'm not in therapy. I don't have a therapist. I haven't tried it. And while it sounds really great, and I particularly haven't tried the BetterHelp app, because I don't have any immediate mental health requirements right now, I wouldn't be able to try this and honestly tell you whether it helped me or what my experience was like, because it's simply something I don't use, or at the moment, fingers crossed, urgently require. So somebody who is going through that, or has gone through it and has used BetterHelp, that kind of influencer might be in a much better place to recommend them. It's complicated, and especially I don't think that a lot of the people who approach you in the emails like recognise that. So yeah, I'm afraid this is a delicious but suspicious for me. Like, I could be persuaded that this is good, or maybe they could fix their ways. I don't know. I'm not against promoting things that help people's mental health. It's just this specific situation sounds like there are way more minuses than pluses. The next one is Bill Gates. I know! He knows who I am. He probably doesn't know who I am. Somebody who worked with Bill Gates approached me because they wanted me to promote his book. Now, I am not ecstatic that billionaires exist, but I'm also not convinced that all billionaires are completely intentionally evil. Video for another day, maybe? And I think that Bill Gates does a lot of stuff that's good, as well as a lot of stuff that I don't really understand but sounds not great. What I am glad about is that he's talking so much about the environment and seemingly using a data-based analogy for the stuff that he does pick out to talk about. So I did read parts of this book and I'd like to finish it at some point. It does sound like a worthwhile book, but the first chapter really made me hesitate just because I didn't love his tone and I felt that he was really sidelining the idea that he would personally have to change anything about his life, and he was just more kind of talking like a robot about the industries and how they should change and what he'd like to change in the industries, and kind of really sweeping under the carpet the fact that he flies so much. He even acknowledges the fact how much he flies. And I'm like, Bill, of all the people will come to you. Like, they'll let you do a web seminar. Like, you don't have to fly for work all the time, you know? Anyway, the woman that I spoke to was really great, really positive. I had a good conversation with her. But in the end, I was like, just give me a few days to go away and try and read the book. And then I came back and was really honest and was like, look, I'm not saying I'm against this book, but I'm also not going to be able to 100% endorse it. And I'm guessing if you want to pay me, I'm going to have to 100% endorse it, which isn't a thing that I can do, so we probably can't do this. And she was like, yeah, fair enough, that's fine. And I think that's part of it as well. Sometimes a sponsorship isn't just that you like the thing, it's that you're not allowed to say anything bad about the thing during that sponsorship. So if there is anything important that you want to flag, you can't take a sponsorship for it, even if it's only 5% of the problem and 95% positive. So Bill Gates goes in a sea of red flags, which sounds bad, and there are a lot of red flags. Like, why are you still a billionaire? Anyway, I think he's in the right place. Okay, this one is Pouch, but it also is a kind of stand-in for generally discount browser extensions. So Honey, stuff like that. There's a few of them I've been approached by, and I've said no, just because discounts in general, one, brings into question, like, who's losing that money? It's not going to be the company, it's probably going to be the workers. Like, when you knock off that kind of price or that kind of discount, like, who loses money? And then also I think it promotes a bit of overconsumption, like the psychological idea of always having money off and always getting a good deal. It's not a good deal if you weren't going to buy it in the first place. It's not that I'm against it in general, but it's also not something I want to stand for, like, and just put myself on the line and be like, this is the hill I will die on. Voucher codes for synthetic lingerie on the internet. Like, it's a delicious but suspicious for me. Another one that's going to stand in for a few different organisations is Omaze. It's the vibe where you kind of pay 10 to 25 to £100 to enter a lottery, and then you might win a car, you might win a house, you might win a luxury holiday, but even if you don't, some of that money, asterisk, can't really work out as a consumer how much, goes to charity. Of just gambling in general gives me the heebs, just because it's addictive, it's a thing that I don't know if you struggle with, and because it's on that big addictive list for me, I don't know if I want to promote it. And then also I just find these sites really existentially dready, because they're not just like, win something that in your normal life you would just buy, that you're winning something that is beyond your wildest dreams. It's a luxury. And how did I put this in my notes? Co-opting charitable giving with the incentive of winning a life that will ultimately create more inequality. Wild. And I guess I agree with past note-taking Lena, that it's this kind of thing that's like, oh, I dream of owning a McMansion, but like I also want to create equality in the world, so I'm glad that it's going to charity. You know what I mean? Like, it's the kind of, you're winning the kind of stuff that in an equal world it was not possible for everybody to have. You know, we stand a good church hall raffle where you win a bottle of wine or a really good book, but this ain't that, and I just couldn't. So Omaze is in the sea of red flags, I think. I haven't really looked into the charitable giving and whether they actually do, but just on the surface of things, I was like, the concept doesn't spark joy. Next, and finally, a weird one. Okay, Dungeons and Dragons. They wanted to work with me. That was cool, but this is one of the ones where it's definitely just going to straight away be, it's not you, it's me. I don't play Dungeons and Dragons. I don't completely understand the pull of Dungeons and Dragons. Not that there isn't a pull, and not that it sounds, please don't hate me. It sounds good, but they approached me like just before I was going to do Vlogmas, and I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to try this game, work out if I like it or not, and then be able to make this sponsorship happen and make it all, like, do you know what I mean? Like, I'm up for trying Dungeons and Dragons at some point in my life, but this wasn't the point, and if I haven't tried it and I don't love it, I can't tell you about it. So maybe I should have taken that sponsorship, you tell me, and I could have just been like a newbie. It's just a funny one that I thought that sometimes comes up where I'm like, literally, it's not you, it's me. Like, there's nothing wrong with you. I just don't know anything about your world, and if I tried to, it would involve a lot of time investment. Right, you must be thinking, now Lena's told me what's wrong with all these companies, it's time for gloves off. I'm going to dig in and tell the influencers off who promote these things. First off, we don't shout at strangers on the internet for doing things that we only literally just found out were maybe a little bit questionable ourselves, or even maybe do ourselves. We also remember the data that suggests that shaming people in any form is the least likely way to get them to change up what they're doing. In fact, you're more likely to push them down the road that you, inverted commas, don't want them to go down. Then we have to look at the online space we are walking into. Being a freelancer, which is, remember, what pretty much all YouTubers are, and also they are identified as workers, and if we're left-wing and we believe in workers' rights, we want that for people. We want to make sure they're being paid enough and they have enough to eat and other necessities. But being a freelancer is a really weird job, because you kind of have to hire yourself and then fire yourself when it isn't working. You build up a portfolio of different income streams that make up what a whole job is to you, and then when those income streams like kind of flit out and go away or come back or build, like, you have to fire yourself. You have to say, look, this is no longer a whole job for me. Now, the way that I have constructed my business Lena, you are a business person, stop saying business. I run a business. I am a big business lady. I am an adult. The way I have constructed my business is that I am able always to say no to brands. If I don't do any brand deals within a month, I don't have the extra money that I might want to put away or buy a takeaway pizza or that kind of thing, but the lights stay on, the food's still on the plate, the rent is still paid, I'd be okay without brand deals. And that's because I waited until a point where I could do this full time without brand deals. And so I do still do them sometimes if I'm excited about a brand and I like them. But because of that, the way that my business is built, it doesn't depend on brand deals. The other income streams include AdSense, so pre-rolls on this video, unless you're using ad blocker, I can see you. Patreon, so the Gumption Club, who are incredible and tip me for the videos that I make for free so they can keep happening. And then also I do some freelance work, so I'm a poet, I do some speaking, I do sometimes some brand consultation stuff, help people with their social media strategies sometimes, like that all happens as well. For me, and because of my belief system, which I'm not pushing on other people, if it came to it and I had to only work with like brands that I didn't agree with, unethical brands, people that I didn't like, then I would fire myself. I would say, this is no longer a viable business for me, I'm going back to the office. Or if that's not an option for me, I can return to some of my old jobs, like cleaning or pulling pints, which I actually kind of miss pulling, not the point. Not everyone feels like that, and not everybody is able to. If somebody has a disability or a childcare thing that means that they can't go and get a different kind of job, or they live in a different kind of economy to mine, then I can't say that that is the universal choice that everybody should make, and there are factors that mean that that isn't possible for everybody, but that is how I've built my business. Business. I'm a big business lady. I also want to say, like, imagine if somebody that you didn't know demanded to look at your CV and look at every single company or workplace that you've ever worked at and brought out every single historical scandal or sketchy deal that they had ever done. Like, there's no ethical work under capitalism, I get that, but I also think there is a difference between having, like, an inverted commas replaceable role within a company, like a role that somebody advertises for, you apply for, and if you quit, they hire somebody who has the same skill set as you to do. There's a difference between that and actually promoting it, because this YouTube channel, it is my job, but it's also my name, because it is my name, because I cannot have another in my life. Anyway, I think there is a difference between working for a company and using your independent business to promote a company. I do think there is a difference there, but again, can't make everybody feel like that. And you have to also remember, when you're talking to an influencer that you probably don't know about who they're working with, you're not just asking them to change their lifestyle habits or their beliefs, you're also asking them to change their business structure, their income streams, everything. That takes strategy, financial planning, and time. So if somebody has structured their business that way and they want to make a change like that, it's going to take a while, and that's okay, but you can't just demand that people stop working with the brands that they're working with, like, that, you know? It's something that people have to come to on their own terms and in their own time. There is also the issue of relatability. So I find it really interesting that there's a lot of spaces, say like the fashion or the beauty world or the lifestyle world, where people are expected to make content and show products that are relatable and what other people would deem in their terms affordable, but when they gain more money, it's unacceptable for them to then pay people fairly and build a more ethical life for themselves, because then they become unrelatable and unattainable. And it's hard because obviously, like, if somebody earns more money, what you want them to do is not increase their consumption and buy more of the stuff that exploits other people. You want them to like buy the same stuff but at a price and from companies that pay people fairly and make sure that everybody in the chain from the thing they're buying, like, you know what I mean? I want their lives to stay the same. That's what I'd like to do if I got more, was to not consume more stuff, but just make the stuff that I buy not rip off or exploit other people, you know? And then I think there's often an expectation that people don't do that. Like, a great example is like Lana Del Rey being completely applauded for wearing Sheen on the red carpet, and I'm like, Lana Del Rey! Not the first time I've despaired, but like, it's a great example, a really interesting example, I think, of this demand that people in the public eye are both relatable and ethical. And sometimes you can't be both, because the system is set up to oppress people who don't have much money, in that they have to buy stuff that does exploit people with even less money. And that's not a good system to be part of. But when the people... I'm going on a rant now, so it's not that video. Okay, if you would like your favourite influencer or YouTuber to stop working with brands that you disagree with, here are my 2 suggestions. If they use a platform like YouTube and you use an ad blocker, maybe reconsider that. It's a huge cut into people's income. You can pay for YouTube Premium, and if you're genuinely in a really financially precarious place in your life right now, obviously use ad blocker. Honestly, from me, go for it. But if you're not, and honestly looking to yourself what that means for you, look at the ways that YouTubers and other people are trying to make money and seeing if you are like actively avoiding helping them with that. You either have the choice of watching the ads or paying for YouTube Premium. And again, if you're spending some of your precious 4,000 weeks on this earth watching people, just showing that they mean something to you, it can make a huge difference, and that's one of the ways you can show that you actually do value their content. If you don't feel like doing that, do you enjoy what you're consuming? Do you honestly appreciate what you're watching? I'm talking to myself now. Maybe I should stop watching creators that I wouldn't tip or wouldn't watch an ad for, you know? And there's always the option to watch the video once with ad blocker on and then leave it running in the background muted with the ad blocker off and run it through a few more times. Do they have other income streams you can support? Are they selling a course? Do they have a Patreon? If not, why not? Ask them. I would like to give to your Patreon. Why don't you have one? That would be cool. Talk them up. Most influencers are insecure as hell and they don't know if they're actually adding value to people's lives. So you can tell them what their content means to you. And if you can, show it with your wallet and tell them why. You're like, I love your content. I don't love that you have to do so many brand deals, so I want to tip you or do this thing because I'd love for you to get to a place where you don't feel like you have to. And to be abundantly clear, the only reason I can do this and say no to most brands is because I have the Gumption Club. They are the patrons that tip me per video. They get a weekly podcast in exchange and some poetry collections that I've written and loads of other like backdated weird content that I've made, plus access to a secret Facebook group where we talk every day about the silly, the frivolous and the deep. They're the reasons I can do that, and I'm really lucky to have those people around me that can support me while I say no. I obviously am really lucky to be able to do that. And as a viewer, I think it's cool to think in a more nuanced way about how the people you love are putting their lights on and keeping their food on the table, and how we can like collectively build to that being a better living for everyone. I want to know in the comments below if you have ever bought something because of an influencer. I certainly have. Tell me what it is below in the comments, and if you had a happy or sad story. I'm going to go rogue and I'm going to put 3 other videos about the influencer economy on the screen that I think you should watch. They're really, really interesting if you are curious. If you just want to watch another one with my face, here's my latest video here. Thank you so much for watching and helping me muddle through this strange and curious world that we have found ourselves in. Frog snug out.